It is said that there is a mortal that has power that goes beyond the gods of destruction. And during the Tournament of Power in Dragon Ball Super, we all bear witness to the greatness, to the extraordinary power of this mortal, known only as Jiren the Grey. Shrouded in mystery for a very long time, Jiren became Goku's rival during the Tournament of Power and pushed Goku to new heights and new powers that he never experienced before, truly testing Goku's will and changing him forever. But who is Jiren the Grey? What do we know about him? On this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, we're going to look at Jiren the Grey as a character, examine what we know, and what I'm hoping for is that by the end of this video, you have a greater understanding of Jiren the Grey and why he has so many fans and why he's a very, very interesting addition to the Dragon Ball mythos. Now up in the new Geekdom 101 store, check out the Jiren Acknowledge Me line of merchandise. This was already out before, but I'm putting it back up now. Various different colors you can pick from with this design and various different sizes as well. Whatever you want, however you want, have it your way. Acknowledge the Universe 11 Tribal Chief with this shirt with exclusive art. And not just that, if you don't want a regular classic tee, there's all kinds of different variations like V-necks and premium shirts and baseball sleeve shirts. Whatever you think is best for you, check them out. The link will be in the description. Pick yours up today because they are limited edition. Thank you for your support. Jiren was created by series creator Akira Toriyama during the pre-planning phases of the Tournament of Power. Interestingly enough, Toei Animation wanted to change Jiren's personality to make him more outspoken and more of a justice freak. But Toriyama himself vetoed that idea and told us that Jiren was in fact more of a quiet, somber individual, a focused, strong martial artist with a tragic backstory. So Toei Animation decided to give that personality over to Toppo instead, but I would have loved to have seen Toriyama's original notes on Jiren and what he actually wrote, but much of it was put into the series deeper in the show when we found out about Jiren's backstory. The first time that we saw Jiren was during the intro to the Tournament of Power portion of Dragon Ball Super. There, we saw Goku having a hell of a brawl with a mysterious alien-looking character with a red and black outfit. At that time, we had no idea who he was. Jiren was actually supposed to debut in the series and appear for the first time before he actually did. Back in Dragon Ball Super episode 78, during the next episode preview from the previous episode, we saw Jiren cloaked, standing next to the Universe 11 gods, but at some point during production, Toei Animation chose to change that and have it be Toppo instead. Jiren was supposed to fight Goku in Dragon Ball Super episode 82, and the episode synopsis that came out prior to the episode actually premiering discussed Goku fighting Jiren. Jiren is completely jacked, a giant titan of a man, and unlike other rivals that Goku has had in the past, Jiren is not a villain. Jiren is actually a superhero and a major part of the Universe 11 Pride Troopers led by Toppo. And although Jiren is the strongest by leaps and bounds of the Pride Troopers, he's not the leader. He's sort of like their secret weapon. He's sort of like the guy who they have to call upon when they run into a problem they can't resolve themselves because of how incredibly powerful he is. But before we get to Jiren's power, let's look at Jiren's backstory. Although Jiren's backstory was revealed in Dragon Ball Super, there are still a lot of mysteries and unanswered questions about his past. Dragon Ball Super episode 127 really shed some light on the backstory of Jiren and why he behaves the way he does. Jiren is of an unknown alien species from an unknown planet, presumably in Universe 11. But as a child, Jiren had left his home and returned and found his parents were killed by a mysterious villain. As of the creation of this video, we still do not know who the actual villain was that killed his family. It's one of those mysteries that's just up in the air and we may never have an answer. Jiren was saved by another mysterious character named Gichin, which is a pun on the word kitchen, and he saves Jiren and brought him onto his team. And he began to train Jiren in the martial arts, which really began his lifelong quest for supreme power. So at some point in the future, Jiren, Gichin, and the other members of his team confronted this villain, and in this battle, many of Jiren's teammates were tragically killed, including his own teacher. With Gichin dead, the remaining surviving members of the team gave up hope and chose to abandon Jiren instead of avenging the loss of their master and move on with their lives. With the loss of Jiren's parents, his master, and even people he thought were his friends, Jiren changed. Jiren developed a sort of version of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Imagine coming home and seeing your parents slaughtered. Then imagine trying to get revenge and seeing your friends and your master who trained you get killed, and your other friends just give up. It was at this point that Jiren's mentality changed. He became a loner. He walked alone. And he sought the strongest possible strength ever because he couldn't trust anybody. So to Jiren, power is absolute. Being the strongest ever is absolute as a defense mechanism to protect yourself and your loved ones. And this inspired Jiren to train and train and train until he finally got to the point where he surpassed gods of destruction and became the Jiren that we know today. For a long time, Jiren lived in solitude, although it is implied that he had a relationship with Universe 11's god of destruction Belmod, which Gichin apparently knew, and at some point, it is never stated exactly when this happened, but Jiren meets Toppo and agrees to join the Pride Troopers as their big secret weapon. Now, the manga version of these events are slightly different, as Jiren was encouraged to join the Pride Troopers by Gichin, who died after Jiren joined the Pride Troopers. No matter which version of the story you're following, the bottom line is that Jiren suffered several tragic losses early in his life, which shaped him into having trust issues. And even though he trusts the Pride Troopers, it's only to a degree. As we peel back the layers of this character, we come to understand that Jiren in many ways became the polar opposite of Goku. In fact, let's talk about that right now in the next section. Jiren and Goku are key members of their respective teams for Universe 11 and Universe 7 during the Tournament of Power, but although Jiren and Goku both share the goal of getting stronger, their core values and ideologies are quite different. Goku wants to get stronger so he can face more opponents because of the blood inside of him from the warrior race. Goku enjoys the thrill of the fight. Goku does not want to hurt anybody that's innocent. Goku just wants to challenge himself and his body and get better. Goku also cares about his friends, and his friends help motivate him to achieve higher levels of power. This happens multiple times in Dragon Ball. The most notable is when Krillin was killed by Frieza, and that pushed Goku to a new level. During the Tournament of Power itself, it was Goku's willingness to not die that pushed Goku into tapping into Ultra Instinct when he was trying to block the Genki Dama that Jiren had reversed. This is brought up later in Dragon Ball Super Episode 130 when Jiren, frustrated at being unable to beat Goku, actually attempts to hurt Goku's friends, and this severely angers Goku after having a philosophical discussion about what his friends mean to him. Jiren, on the other hand, is different. Very, very different. In the manga version, however, Jiren does seem to be a bit more like Goku, a bit more virtuous. In the manga, he seems to be more heroic, and also his goal with the Super Dragon Balls, should Universe 11 had been the surviving universe, was to resurrect his dead master. However, in the anime, it appears like all Jiren wants is more power. even though he is already frighteningly strong. Let's not forget that when Jiren began to fight after meditating for a very long time, he was able to block God Goku's punches with one finger, and even Goku using the power of blue was still nothing to Jiren. It was like Goku was literally a jabroni. It wasn't until Goku began to use Ultra Instinct Omen that Jiren began to really feel Goku's power, but even then it really did not hit, and Jiren was able to keep up with Goku speed-wise and power-wise. But when Goku finally used the silver-haired mastered or perfected Ultra Instinct, that is when Jiren began to fall at the hands of Goku. But before then, Jiren was seemingly invincible as a result of all the training he did. But unlike Goku, he's not training to become the strongest to protect his friends or to just seek challenging opponents. Jiren wants to be the strongest because he never wants what happened to his parents and his master to happen ever again to himself or the Pride Troopers. And from Jiren's viewpoint, the only way to achieve complete protection is by being the strongest and being fearless. This interesting ideology, in my opinion, kind of makes Jiren more of a badass, but also a bit of a hard ass. And even in Dragon Ball Super Episode 131, Toppo kind of calls him a coward because of the fact that he doesn't really understand that there's more to life than just power, and that he needs to really get over what happened to him when he was younger. And in real life, if we suffer something like Jiren, it's going to take a lot of therapy to overcome that, to fix what's wrong with our brains. Jiren needs therapy more than power. Get it? In the manga, Jiren seems to be a lot less selfish and more like Toppo in that he really has a high regard for justice, but he's not a bad person. Outside of when Jiren tried to attack Goku's friends, Jiren is a hero. Albeit a bit of a flawed hero, which is very reminiscent of Goku. The debate of whether or not Goku is a hero has been going on forever, for decades. But it depends on what your definition of a hero is. Jiren is more like a Marvel or DC type of superhero, a Pride Trooper, a team, like the Avengers of Universe 11. But he also has flaws. He also has a temper. He also gets frustrated. Heroes don't have to be perfect. One of the things I loved about Super that I hope they kind of develop more is the fact that by the end of the story, Jiren respects Goku and finally is beginning to learn to let go of the past, let go of his trauma, and build friendships with those around him. Goku's motivation to not die and to not let Universe 7 be destroyed as a result of the rules of a Tournament of Power made by Zeno is what motivated him to get stronger. Jiren saw that as a weakness. But it was Goku's love of his friends that pushed him to a higher level to actually overcome Jiren, the character who is said to be stronger than Gods of Destruction. During the run of the anime, it really seemed like Jiren was the strongest mortal ever, and only an angel could defeat him. That's the way I perceived it initially. Now I can kind of understand why people would say Beerus is still stronger, but remember, Jiren was able to compete with Ultra Instinct Goku for a very long time, so even the speed and power of UI is something that Jiren can evenly match without even using Ultra Instinct. However, Jiren does meditate a lot, so it's assumed that Jiren has some kind of knowledge of a technique or of combat to go neck and neck with UI. Jiren is a scarred and traumatized figure. A person whose past is what motivated him to be great, but also an anchor on his emotions, preventing him from truly becoming a great person that he's capable of doing. Because he is heroic, he does care about others, but he has a very dogmatic and narrow-minded viewpoint of what power actually means until the end of Dragon Ball Super when he begins to soften up a bit. Jiren was haunted by his past losses, haunted by the idea of losing Universe 11 and being wiped out eternally. And that's what motivated him to become stronger. Similar to Goku, but not quite the same. And that is why by the end of the series, Jiren does have a mutual respect for Goku. Jiren was hyped up for a while. Those of you who were with me during the entire run of Dragon Ball Super remember how much foreshadowing and hype they gave Jiren. Even before we saw him in Dragon Ball Super, Whis was already teasing a mortal stronger than Gods of Destruction that they would have to face in this tournament. Whis, being an angel and very knowledgeable about the lore of the multiverse, knew of this character, but he didn't really know who he was. For a while, Jiren was just a rumor. It was just lore. It was just a possibility until we saw him in action. Jiren is a tad bit egotistical when it comes to the way he fights. He oftentimes lets his opponents come at him for two reasons. Number one, to see what kind of fighting style they use and what techniques they have to bring to the table. But number two, because he wants to show complete dominance and superiority by blocking and reversing everything they try. Jiren is a defensive counter-striker, and an effective one at that, and a huge proponent of meditation. We see Jiren meditating throughout a big portion of this arc, and in between the fights he has with Goku, Hit, and the others, Jiren was meditating, presumably to conserve but also draw out his true strength and remain focused on the victory at hand. Jiren is extremely confident, and some would say he's overconfident, but the difference is that he actually proves it. And it's not until silver-haired Goku fights him that he even really gets hurt at any point. Obviously, he took blows during the battles, and the Tournament of Power did last a while, at least in TV time, but it wasn't like he was really being injured until that big fight with Goku at the end. Jiren stomped through God and Blue Power as well as Blue Kaioken like a hot knife through butter. And it's because of this incredible power that Jiren oftentimes comes off like he's ridiculing others, because they don't match up to his level of excellence. But he does show respect to those who try hard to reach their maximum peak, like he did with Vegeta and later Goku. And interestingly enough, even though he is stronger than Toppo, he still shows respect to Toppo being the actual leader of the Pride Troopers. One might wonder, if Jiren is so powerful, why doesn't he try to be a god of destruction like Toppo? Jiren does not seem to be interested in having that job whatsoever. Whereas Toppo is literally the next in line. But that makes you wonder, when Toppo does take over as the Universe 11 God of Destruction, does that mean that Jiren becomes the leader of the Pride Troopers, or will it go to Casserole? Either way, it's something to think about. I would say the most impressive feat that we ever saw Jiren perform was against Hit. During their battle in Dragon Ball Super Episode 111, Hit trapped Jiren in a time cage. This is sort of like a prison, which is an endless loop of time that Jiren should not be able to escape from. And Jiren still breaks out of it. In one of the most impressive feats in the entire series, Vados, an angel, describes that his power is beyond comprehension, and that Jiren has the power that transcends time itself. And don't forget that when Jiren powered up, he shook the entire world of Void, an endless realm outside of time and space. As we see Jiren fighting, his senses are heightened, and he's always completely focused. But when he loses focus after fighting multiple opponents, he is open for attack, which is what happened when 17 blasted him in the back. We don't have confirmation that Jiren actually knows Ultra Instinct. He seems to be cloaked in a mysterious aura that resembles Ultra Instinct with like a red sort of tint to it, but it's never actually stated if it is Ultra Instinct. Jiren is one of the most powerful warriors in the multiverse, and even though Universe 11 did not win the Tournament of Power, it does make you wonder if Jiren continued to train and how strong he would be now after some time has passed since that tournament happened. Would he be able to defeat Goku now? Whis states in the manga that Jiren's power is immeasurable, and the rate of which he grows his power is quite high. So this idea of Jiren possibly coming back and being stronger than Goku despite Goku learning everything he has and getting stronger himself is a possibility. But don't forget, he is still a mortal, and thus he can get tired, and thus he can be beaten over time. And I sincerely do hope that someday Goku and Jiren do fight again. I hope you enjoyed this look at Jiren. It's everything that we know so far about the character, and I hope he returns. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.